Hello, everyone, and welcome, one and all, to Super Podcast Action Committee episode 130. Zelda Netflix! Okay, before we get there, Andrew Eisen here, and with me, Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Andrew.
Uh, so, it's been an interesting week. Sometimes we scrape the bottom of the barrel for topics, and sometimes it's just a week where we have to pare down the list, because we always yammer and run out of time on things anyway. So,
Uh-huh.
I actually haven't got much gaming done. Test. Goth, do you need a link to the video, or are you seeing the video okay? Um, let's see. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, video games. So haven't played that much this week. I actually watched Archer season 5 instead of playing video games, and that seems to be a divisive season for a lot of people because they really switch up the formula. But
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it. I watched. I finally saw. Uh, Machete Kills this afternoon, and
Nice.
it's not very good. I'm
I,
really
I don't
disappointed.
I don't think it was supposed to be very good from what I understand
Well,
of the whole
oh,
thing.
okay. Machete is not a good movie, but it's a wildly entertaining one. It's one I've watched a couple of times, and one I will probably revisit again in the future. Machete Kills. It's not a movie I'm going to watch again. There's a lot of really good stuff in it, but it just doesn't really gel as a whole film, and I was kind of bored throughout most of the movie. It wasn't. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've been cashing in my coins into Club Nintendo and buying some
Everything you can.
everything I can. Um, let's see. I got Doc Lewis's Punch Out, which was a platinum reward from a couple years ago, which adds your trainer as a playable opponent or an opponent you can fight against in the Punch Out for the Wii. And I was really happy to see that as a reward because or it's something purchasable because I missed it the first time around. And
Yeah.
I played that this afternoon, and it's really cool. I really enjoyed that. Picked up. Let's see. I picked up Chibi Robo for the Photo Finder. I think it's called for the 3DS. Got. Well, let's look at my receipts. What all did I get? Let's see. Doc Lewis Punch Out, Chibi Robo, yes. Earthbound. I saw that in the video store all the time back when I was young, a teenager, um, and never played it. So quite interested to play that. I also got Zelda Link's Awakening for the 3DS, which is an old Game Boy title, which I've never played. I'll also be picking up the Donkey Kong for the 3DS from 1994, I think. It's basically they took the original arcade game and greatly expanded it, and I hear it's great, and I look forward to playing that. But if any of you have tried to use Club Nintendo this week, you probably haven't been able to because it's been up and down and you haven't signed in. And I got those 4 games, and I was trying to get Donkey Kong, and the site crashed, and I haven't got back in yet. So,
Okay.
but what about you? Been playing anything interesting this week?
Um. Well, I played a little bit of Papa and Yo.
Okay. I
Yeah.
hear that's quite good.
Yeah. I bought it a while back on the Humble Bundle and decided to give it a play, and I got quite a ways through, and it's got some interesting puzzle mechanics to it. There are a lot of manipulate the world puzzles. Where you pick up a little box and you put it in this chalk outline, and it moves a section of the world to where you can where it needs to be and stuff. Various things like that, and it's really interesting because you've got to kind of figure things out a lot of times. Like it gives you little hints, but it's some of them aren't as clear as they could be, but like there was this one, like in the game, you're kind of following this girl that you see, run through the level, the stage before you, and so you're kind of following her. And then I got to this one point where I'm like trying to put 3 boxes down so that I could cross a gap, and she steals one and is running away from me, and I'm trying to figure. It took me like 10 minutes or so to figure out exactly how I was supposed to get the box back from her, and once I figured it out, I was like, oh, how did I not see that? But it wasn't 100% clear right off the bat, which is actually good. Puzzles shouldn't be obvious when you get into them. I have not beaten the game yet. I have seen the Papa character, the monster character, as he kind of tromped around through the background of the level, but I have yet to actually encounter him or anything. But it's definitely a fun game. I want to finish it, but yeah, that's kind of, it's been sitting on my to play list for a while, along with Rias, I think that's how it's pronounced, which is another big monster guy type thing. But one of the things I like about Papa and Yo is that it's based in, I believe, South Africa. Um, in kind of the slum areas of South Africa, and so the visuals in the game are really fit what I've seen in various movies around that. Trying to think of specific names of movies that I've seen there, but kind of like District 9, and there was a movie I watched about a girl kind of around the um, the end of apartheid separation, segregation in South Africa. Can't remember the name of the movie now, but yeah, it's just seeing those kind of regions, and I've actually visited with people who spent time down there, and they took lots of pictures and stuff. So yeah, so just based off of my experiences seeing that region, the game does pull it off very well, even though it is kind of a fantastical version, because you are going in sewer pipes and pulling switches that switch the pipes around and things like that. But yeah, it was definitely a very well designed game. I just haven't finished it yet because just lots of other things going on at the moment. Have you played it, Andrew? Or
No. It's on PSN, I would imagine.
I don't know.
Okay,
I bought
well,
it through the Humble Bundle. So
oh, is that, yeah, I know it's on PC, so
yeah.
it looks like the kind of game I would rather play with a controller, and I know you can play PC games with a controller. Um,
Yeah.
so I might pick it up, although I have a PS3, as most of you know, and Sony gives you a free trial of PlayStation Plus for 2 weeks, which means that I went ahead and got all the January and February freebies. Of course, the thing expires
Nice.
in like a week, so unless I actually play all of them, they'll sit locked away on my hard drive until I shell out for PlayStation
Yeah.
Plus.
Eh,
The problem
50
I
bucks a
have with
month or 60 bucks a month, or
a
six
year,
a year. I mean, not
yeah,
a month.
I think it's
Yeah.
50. Yeah, it's not a bad deal. The only problem I have with it, especially in light of the hacks that Sony has suffered, and not just the Sony Pictures one from late last year, but the PSN hack, which took the damn thing down for a month a couple of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
is if you want to use PSN, they're like, give us your credit card number and store it. I'm like, I don't want you to store my credit card number. I will happily type it in every single time. I don't want you to hold on to it for
You know
me.
how I get around that?
Don't buy anything from PSN?
No, I keep on hand a used up Visa gift card that hasn't expired.
Hmm.
There's it's still a valid credit card number, and it works. And then when I'm ready to actually buy anything from a service, I'll just I'll just change my credit card number to a valid credit or debit card, and then
Hmm.
once I'm done buying stuff, I switch it back to that Visa debit or Visa
Yeah.
gift card. Yeah,
It's an
it's the best
interesting
way for
approach.
me.
Yeah.
You know?
So, yeah, yeah. So I have, gosh, Transistor, Yakuza 3, 4, something like that. That's the one I'm really going to try and find the time to play before my PlayStation Plus thing expires because I've
Yeah.
always wanted to try the Yakuza games. They look really neat. So let us talk a little bit about the biggest, most super duper news from this week, which is as excited as fanboys like me get about this stuff, it's almost non-news. But the Wall Street Journal, of all people, the Wall Street Journal reported that Netflix is working with Nintendo on a Legend of Zelda show for Netflix that would presumably air on Netflix. Now, um, to
and they
put it
and
into
they bill it as Game of Thrones for families.
right, but if it was 10 years ago, they'd be saying it's the Lord of the Rings for fam. Although I guess that's PG-13. So, um, but this is in like such early stages of development that they're still looking for writers. So, this
Well,
could
and
easily not
it's
come to
so early
pass.
that it hasn't actually been confirmed by either party
Yeah.
in this deal. Neither Netflix nor Nintendo has
Hmm.
confirmed that they're working on this. So really, it's just they're in talks.
Yeah.
Is basically where we're at. Until one of them says yes, it's happening. It's really just a well sourced rumor, I
Yeah.
guess.
Now, yeah, because it comes from the Wall Street Journal. It's like, well, if you can't trust the Wall Street Journal, who can you trust? I mean,
Yeah.
the only other entity that's as trustworthy as the Wall Street Journal is like Michael Pachter. Whatever that guy says, man, you're good. So, Matthew
But
says, I think the leaked Disney pitch video was better. Huh? What? What?
I
What?
don't
What
know.
Disney pitch video?
I have no idea.
Send a link or describe that more because I'm either not remembering it or haven't seen it. Dream Peppers asks, why the Wall Street Journal? Do they have contacts in Nintendo or Netflix? Um, it's probably
Netflix
one of
probably.
those,
Yeah.
Netflix most certainly, but it's probably one of those. I have friends with a guy who is, I know some things that I can't talk about because I happen to know people in places that
Yeah.
are like, hey, dude, off the record, but keep your eye on this next week because man, something's good. And I off the record, but this cool thing almost happened. It was most cool, and it's like, stop telling me this stuff because I can't tell anyone about it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I could, but I'd be a big jerk about it. And then no one would ever tell me anything. So,
You know,
go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say that going back to the Game of Thrones for families thing, somebody in the shout box, I believe, mentioned that it'd probably be better if if it were toned similarly to Legend of the Seeker. Did you ever see that?
No. What is that?
It was a television show. It lasted 2 seasons, but it was a fantasy series based off of a book or a book series. Uh, I believe the same name, and it followed the story of this boy who was, I believe, like he's basically destined to end the evil tyrant that lived in the kingdom, and so it follows his adventure along with his wizard mentor and his protectors as they journey to train him so that he can eventually kill this tyrant, this evil wizard guy. And so it was. I watched it. The first season was excellent, a very good, very well done season. The second season was not as good, and it was one of those shows that aired on Saturday afternoons, and so kind of along the lines of the Adventures of Hercules and Xena, but it just didn't have quite the same fan base as those two series, and so it didn't last very long. But it was definitely a good series, worth a watch. If you got a Netflix subscription, I believe it's still there.
Hmm.
It's been a long time since I've checked, because it's been a long time since I've watched it.
Yeah, I may have to get a Netflix subscription because the Daredevil show comes out in April, I think,
Uh-huh.
and I'd quite like to see that.
Yeah.
Matthew, thank you very much for sending the link to that thing. Everyone who is watching the show now or later, if you go to YouTube and you search CG Legend of Zelda movie pitch, you'll find it. Yes, I do remember that now. That was a pitch from Imagi, the company that did Astro Boy and TMNT. The animated features. They, a couple of years ago, several years ago, from looking at the date on this, was 2007, did a CG little 1.5 minute fight scene with Zelda and Link in the desert fighting some guys, and used that as a, hey, Nintendo, look what we did. Let us make a movie. And Nintendo said, no, my precious, and grabbed all its IP and hoarded it and said, nobody touches my precious. Something.
I'm gonna have to watch this. I'm just watched the first 30 seconds of this, and it looks really good. Very well done.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to see Imagi go because I liked the TMNT movie. It wasn't perfect, but it had a lot of cool stuff in it, and I was interested to see where it would go. And even the Astro Boy movie had some pretty good moments, even though I've never been that huge a fan of the property in the first place. Now, what I find interesting about this whole Netflix Zelda thing is I've been, keeping a little rough outline, a little document in my Outlook of predictions that I'm going to make for a pre-E3 video. I did 10 crazy Nintendo predictions last year, and I thought I might do something similar. And one of my predictions was
Welcome,
Nintendo.
Gamer
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's Nintendo will be. Hey, Luce, you're well done. You got here before the end of the show. That's good. What was I saying? Oh, is that Nintendo will be a bit looser with its intellectual property, and we're going to see more TV shows, animated shorts, and even merchandise like toys and dolls and stuff like that. And I was starting to get the feel for this because of the Pikmin animated shorts that they did recently. There's toe in the water with the Amiibo stuff. We're seeing more and more third-party companies handling Nintendo properties. There's even that is it Bandai Namco is doing the Pokemon Fighter game, I think. It's someone whoever does Tekken. I think it's Bandai Namco. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. So it's interesting to see that we're starting to see this. They're like also during the Sony Pictures hack, it looked like there was word of Sony Pictures perhaps cooperating with Nintendo on a Mario movie, and now we're saying, well, now there are talks between Netflix and Nintendo to make a Legend of Zelda TV show, and so yeah, sneak preview if I ever get around to actually doing that pre E3 this year.
Okay.
So go ahead.
But back on Legend of Zelda show, one of the funnier aspects is that a lot of people are worried that they'll have the whole, well, excuse me, princess in it, and I think my personal opinion is they need to have it in there at least once, and preferably done in jest, and just to say that they used it, because my personal opinion is that's officially part of the non-game Zelda lexicon.
Yeah, I'd be if they did something like Link and Zelda are face to face, and he has to leave. And he's like, "Well, excuse me, princess," and leaves. I'd be like, I know what that's from. I don't actually need the tone, because he's either going to be that character or it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. But yeah, you never know. I'm not really hung up on stuff like Link shouldn't speak. Link should be left-handed. I don't care. I mean, if you get an actor who's left-handed, great. If the right actor for the role is right-handed,
Great.
that's
Yeah.
fine. I can live with a right-handed
Well,
Link.
considering Link has been right-handed in the last two games,
Mhm.
console games, there's it's there that yes, he's left-handed as well, or he's ambidextrous, I should say. But yeah, you know, I haven't seen any serious casting. Casting predictions like dream castings.
Oh,
Posted Destructoid posted
yeah.
their dream casting, and the one I read, they did two versions of it. And the first one
Mm.
I read had Kristen Stewart as Zelda with a picture of Link there, and
Ah, ha, ha. That's the nice thing about this show is a good portion of the population is like, oh, wait, Zelda's the princess, and that dude ain't Zelda. Whoops.
um, but yeah, and then okay, now I forget his name. The guy who played the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn from
William Defoe.
yeah, William Defoe. They had him down in one article as Ganondorf, and I personally could see that. That could work. He might be a little more expensive than they're willing to pay
Mhm.
for. Um, I believe who did I put down as Ganondorf? Now I'm trying to
Bryan
remember.
Cranston, I
Yeah,
think is.
Bryan Cranston. Yeah, he might be a little more expensive than they're willing to pay, but I think he
Mhm.
would make a great Ganondorf. And I can't think of any actors or actresses for Link or Zelda really, because I'm not well versed in those. But my personal opinion is that this should be Teen Link and Teen Zelda, if they're really going to go for the family crowd. But yeah.
Mhm.
So and I think like an actress like Dakota Fanning, she's got a pretty good range in roles that she's played, and as bad as the Twilight movies were, her character in there was actually pretty watchable. Like I would watch a whole movie about just her character from there. But yeah, I think she has a well enough range, and she's only 20, so she's still young enough to pass off as a teenager if you need her to. So
Mhm.
but,
Well,
yeah,
I'm used to people in their early 30s playing high school kids. I mean, we've all seen The Breakfast Club, I think. So,
that's true.
or, or maybe I'm just really old and none of you have seen The Breakfast Club. Um, yeah. So let's see. I'm looking at the Destructoid articles, and they say Kristen Stewart is Zelda, and they mean Link. I'd be fine with a female Link. That's cool. And I hear Kristen Stewart outside of Twilight can actually act, so
I
that's.
haven't seen a movie where she can act,
I
and
haven't seen a movie with her in it, so I have no idea.
yeah, well,
Shark.
yeah, I've watched the Snow White movie that she was in, and she was just as bad in that.
hmm Let's see. Charlize Theron is the Princess Zelda. Okay, I think she's a little old for what they are probably doing with Princess Zelda, but whatever. Danny DeVito is Tingle. Mm, I'm happy that he's in Hyrule Warriors, but you could probably leave him out of the show just fine. Oscar Isaac as Ganondorf, okay, or Idris Elba as Ganondorf. Now that could be really cool because that guy
Uh
is
huh.
awesome.
He is an excellent actor, and I think he could do it really well. And just looking at they've got the side by side picture of him and Ganondorf, and yeah, he looks like he could fit the role pretty well. Just based on his face, and his size too. He's a pretty big guy.
A good game. One of our chat peoples in the chat says Zelda Williams as Zelda. Okay, if she can act, sure. Does she do any acting? I don't recall her. I
I'm
don't know.
trying to
The other
think.
article says Ryan Gosling is Link, and yeah, because a
Why not?
stone-faced person with absolutely no personality, that's exactly who Link is in most of the games.
I like
Sorry, I'm not a fan of Ryan Gosling.
yeah.
I saw
William
Drive and
Dafoe's
yeah,
Ganondorf,
yeah.
and yeah, I could see that. Then Aubrey Plaza as
As
Zelda.
Zelda,
Yeah,
I could see her
she's
as
from
Midna.
Parks and Recreation.
If you're gonna typecast her, make her Midna.
There we go. And then Horse as Epona.
And then
I
Morgan
like that.
Freeman as Navi or other psychic. So the hey listen is gonna be in Morgan Freeman's voice.
There we go.
Hey,
And
listen. You'd be like,
people will
okay.
actually listen.
That's what Nintendo should do is get someone with a really commanding, cool voice to do the voice of the stupid fairy, and you'd be running to, hey, listen, see Death Mountain over there? You might want to check that out. And he'd be like, okay, Navi, I'm on it. Keep talking to me. So, so let's see. Zelda Williams voice acted in the last season of Legend of Korra. Okay. So,
Who was she?
and
Kuvira?
she has the
Okay,
face
she
to be
was
adult
the
Zelda.
villain in there. Yeah, I could see her as Zelda. Yeah, you know, kind of typecasting based on name, but I could see it.
But I mean, if Robin Williams can be in World of Warcraft, then Zelda Williams can be in Legend of Zelda. Um, would you would you feel the need for the show to follow any particular storyline like Ocarina of Time or one of those, or just take elements
I
from
think
all the Zelda mythos and do their own thing?
I think they should just do their own thing. A lot of people are like, they should make it the Twilight Princess story or the Ocarina of Time story, and I'm like, no, no, just make your own Zelda story.
Mm-hmm.
You've got all the core elements there. You can fit those into the series and make a really good movie or series out of it, and just hold true to the themes and the canon of the Zelda series, but do your own story. That's all I believe they need to do, because yeah, I think one of the things that have almost always gone wrong with video game movies is they either um, uh, they either move away from the base material too far, or and so at that point it's only that video game movie in name only, or they try to recreate a video game in the movie, and it just falls apart, and it just doesn't work. I think like with the Avatar movie, this isn't a video game movie, but it is a similar thing. They tried to condense an entire season's worth of Avatar into a single movie, when what they could have done was they could have just taken the series and used that as the basis, and then made a movie of Aang solving some crisis after the series ended. That probably would have gone down a lot better, but that's not what they did at all.
Yeah. As long as they keep Uwe Boll or M Night Shyamalan, whatever his name is, away from it, I'm sure it'll be fine. Personally, I always thought, Legend of Zelda should, unless you're going full budget movie, it should probably be animated. I'm concerned that even as a Netflix production, it's not going to have the budget to properly do like Gorons and Zoras. I'm like, do you have the budget to really do awesome makeup effects? I
They've done
don't
Hemlock
know.
Grove, which is a fantasy werewolf.
That's true.
So I think they could. They Netflix has the budget to do some really good makeup and
Yeah.
special effects there, and I believe
Because
they're
the last thing I
probably.
want to see is a crappy, sci-fi channel level computer animated Zora or Goron. I'd be like, oh,
Yeah,
that's embarrassing.
I think they'll probably do a good blend of practical and CG effects. With most of the characters, if they fit into a human persona, are going to be practical makeup effects. But some of the larger monsters and non-humanoid monsters are going to be CG.
Mhm. I hope they do something more interesting with Zelda, other than Ganondorf kidnaps Zelda, Link goes after her. Hopefully, they take elements of the stories where she's been a much more interesting character, like Ocarina of Time. And I'm going to spoil this for those of you who haven't played a nearly 20-year-old game, where she escapes with Impa and dresses up as Sheik and helps out Link and does this thing on her own. Or in Skyward Sword, where she and Impa are off doing their own thing while Link is off doing his own thing. Uh,
Hmm.
I because otherwise, just to make it more interesting, and I guess it depends on what they do with the show, but I hope they go somewhat more in that direction
Yeah.
than.
I think they could. I think that could work out too. Just have kind of a dual storyline going on. You've got Zelda, dealing with her side of things, and then Link dealing with his side of things, and both of them working towards that mutual goal of defeating Ganondorf. Um, and then everything kind of converges in the final couple of episodes. So.
I want to see Link stuff a fairy forcefully into a bottle. Give me life, little fairy.
I think they'll probably. I don't know if that would go down well. It might be kind of funny, maybe like catches her in a fairy in a jar without realizing it's a fairy, and that's kind of a way to move the plot forward. But I think having the fairy fountains, where the large fairies are, having that being an actual point in the show where Link goes there after being injured, and the fairies tend to his wounds. I definitely got to have fairies in there. So
Yeah, Goth points out, he says, "You can say it. You just don't want the show to fall into the damsel in distress trope." And that's true, but from a perspective you may not be thinking. The main problem with the damsel in distress trope is it's overused and boring. Let me qualify that a bit. Damsel in distress referring simply to usually female character being rendered powerless for the sake of the narrative arc of the protagonist, who's usually male. Now, Zelda could get kidnapped at some point in the show and require Link or Impa or a
somebody.
task force full of Hyrule. Like Zelda gets kidnapped and Link goes around recruiting all Azora, Goron, and a Deku Scrub and a bunch of people, and they raid the as long as it's not just Zelda gets kidnapped, go get her, because that's just boring. You know,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with the damsel in distress trope in and of itself. It's just overused, and when it's used, it's not used particularly well or in a particularly interesting way.
Yeah.
If they,
If it's used as a key plot element in a single episode or maybe a two-part episode, like you said, where it's like Ganondorf has over his forces have overrun Hyrule Castle, and they've taken her prisoner,
Mhm.
and now Link has to amass a small army or task force to invade and free the castle and Zelda. That could work. I've seen that done multiple
Oh,
times in
sure.
movie television shows.
Yeah, I think it's more. I don't think using damsel in distress is not a bad thing in and of itself. It's just you want to be smart about how you use it. I mean, if you're going to use it, you want to think, okay, damsel in distress. There's a reason it's so popular, but is there perhaps a better, more interesting way to achieve the same thing that we would be using this trope to achieve? Sometimes the answer may be nope, this is exactly what we want to do, and that's okay. But with Legend of Zelda, you do in some ways, depending on what you're doing with the story, kind of paint yourself into a corner, because you have the bad guy trying to gather the Triforce, the Triforce of Wisdom, Power, and Courage, and one of them's embedded in Princess Zelda, so unless you're going to do some swap where Link gets kidnapped and Zelda has to rally her Hyrulean forces to go get him, at some point the bad guy does have to have the Triforce. It doesn't have to, but you would think that's probably where it's going to go, unless he can, just physically extract it from her, and it's a quest to go get it back. Who knows?
Yeah.
I just, I just hope it's a good show and not embarrassingly bad like the Super Mario Bros. Movie from what, '93 or something.
I don't know. Yeah, that's Nintendo doesn't have a very good track record, with this kind of stuff. The Super Mario Brothers Super Show, that's still entertaining, even
In its
today.
own right, sure.
Yeah. I have not watched like Captain N or the Legend of, like I tried watching the Zelda cartoon show recently, but after like 2 maybe 3 episodes I was just like, this is painful. I can't watch this anymore. Um, and then Captain N I haven't watched in forever. Um, like I haven't watched that since it was actually on the air. Um, but were there any other shows that they did? Nintendo themed shows? Because all that I remember is the Wizard as a movie and the Super Mario Brothers movie, and then I don't remember any other cartoons besides the ones I listed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Matthew says, even in Ocarina of Time, you think she's a prisoner for a large part of the game, right? Because you don't realize that she is Sheik, so you think she's
Yeah.
either kidnapped or in hiding. Um, but yeah, as soon as she's like, "Whoom, princess dress. I am Princess Zelda," and like a couple minutes later, boom, kidnapped. And you're like,
Yeah.
should have kept the Sheik disguise on, because the
Yeah.
minute she takes that sucker off.
Well, and even while she's Sheik, keeping up the ruse that she is still a prisoner is a good thing because it prevents Ganon's forces from
Mhm.
hunting her down and stuff, which would have compromised what she was doing as Sheik. So
If I'm remembering right, the same thing happens to Tetra in Wind Waker when the minute she's revealed to be Princess Zelda, it's like off to being kidnapped or something like that. But it in that game, Tetra was such a character, and in Ocarina of Time, Zelda became such a character that you probably didn't really even think about it as like, oh, this damn trope again. And you probably didn't, because very few people were actually talking about this as a overused trend in how women are portrayed in video games. Not like these days. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I want to.
But I look forward to seeing what Netflix does with it because Netflix is doing a really good job with their shows. But they haven't done a lot of children's stuff. I know they've done some VeggieTales episodes. I don't really think they're as good as the original VeggieTales stuff, but
Has
they're still somewhat
VeggieTales seen a drop in quality?
Well, the animation quality has been upped. The
Mhm.
storytelling quality, I guess, has been upped, but it's not quite the same VeggieTales because VeggieTales was always about moral lessons, from the Bible told through interesting stories, some biblical, some not. This one's just really just the life of Larry and Bob in this vegetable city in somebody's kitchen. Um, and so it's not as entertaining. But what other? I'm trying to think of what other shows that Netflix has done, and kid wise, but nothing else is coming to mind.
I don't know. I know they have a kids section though.
Oh, they did King Julian, I think, from
Wait, is that from Madagascar?
Madagascar.
The
I think the
lemur or whatever that is?
yeah.
Oh, James is in the chat. Hi, James. Goff says, Captain N, the walking Deus Ex Machina. Yeah, but you don't mess with someone who's packing a zapper.
Yeah, they did a whole series based on King Julian. All Hail King Julian is what it's called. Let's see how many
Well, I'm
episodes
sure
is
House of Cards and Orange is the New Black are perfectly kid friendly.
that? Sure.
I haven't vetted them, but I'm sure they're groovy.
Yeah. But yeah,
From,
but
from what I
other than
understand.
that, I'm looking forward to the Marvel stuff because
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
watched
They
that
they actually.
trailer for the Daredevil, and I'm just like, yeah, this is what the movie should have been.
It's really dark, and I mean
Yeah.
like brightness dark. I'm like, does anything? I was like, do I need to crank the brightness on my TV? And it's probably just that trailer, and they're going for a certain tone.
hmm
I don't think we talked about this, but what did you think of the Fantastic Four trailer? Did you see it?
I saw it. I understand why they decided to go with the tone they did. Mainly because they've reached a point where it's like they did the light and campy with the first two Fantastic Four movies, and those bombed horribly, and so now and they've done and then they went with the X-Men movies, First Class, and what was after First Class now, I can't remember.
Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past, and those were a little more darker and not campy at all, basically, and so I think they're trying to go for that in that direction, and maybe a little bit too far. I would have liked to have seen more action, like more of the characters in their powers, but I think they're saving those for later trailers. But
Oh yeah, they're definitely keeping the keeping a lot of the money shots off screen, but the problem I had with it was it doesn't look any fun. And I don't mean golly gee whiz, oh happy joy, flowers and unicorns fun. I mean the movie just looks kind of depressing.
yeah, they did. The trailer does come off as very depressing, and you know, I don't think that was a very good first impression. They should have
No.
done something a little, one of the things about the Fantastic Four is that they're excited to explore new horizons. That's basically the whole premise of the Fantastic Four is they are lost in space combined with inner space combined with Back to the Future combined with Journey to the Center of the Earth type
Mhm.
type stuff. That's what they do, and they kind of got the whole sciency thing in there, but they really didn't get the love of science, the love of exploration, and
No, it comes off as really depressing. Like the scientists are marching to their deaths.
yeah.
Like they're going to have their arms and legs pulled off for science. It's like no fun. And if you don't know what if I had no idea that this was a Fantastic Four trailer before going in, I would have. There's nothing in the trailer that says Fantastic Four or superhero. It is a superhero, I think, unless they're doing something completely radically different, like Fantastic Four in name only. I can imagine sitting in a theater and not knowing I was watching a Fantastic Four trailer and watching this trailer, and it gets to the end, and it goes Fantastic Four. I would have been like,
What?
"What? Where? Really? Huh? Okay." So I'm not getting down on the movie. Maybe it'll be great. I hope it'll be great. I'd love
Maybe.
a great Fantastic Four movie, but that was like one of the worst, most tone deaf trailers I've ever seen. So
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
and the market, and they're doing that fan four stick. They're spelling fantastic with a four instead of an A for the second
Yeah,
A. It's like,
it's terrible,
that makes
terrible,
me want to
terrible.
punch you when you do that. Uh, Another thing I really don't like is when they don't use sequel numbers; they just use a subtitle. Like Thor: The Dark World, Thor: Ragnarok. Now, luckily, that's in alphabetical order, so it's fine on my shelf. But um, sometimes you end up with a show that's 4 or 5 entries long, and the subtitles it's like, do I put it in chronological order or actual strict alphabetical order? Because I have Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles and Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles. Darkside Chronicles comes after Umbrella Chronicles, but not in the alphabet. What do I do? So
uh,
anyway, let us move on to the poll. Now that's 45 minutes into the show.
yeah.
So The poll this week asks, "What do you think of FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler?" And someone, Goth, I think it was you, who said, "Who's Tom Wheeler?" And I'm like, "He's the FCC chairman." What? Um, and then I realized that not everyone writes for game politics and might actually really keep up on this to have an informed opinion of what they think of Chairman Tom Wheeler. And unfortunately, I was so damn busy this week that it took me, I think, till like Friday afternoon to write the poll article and kind of give
Hmm.
an idea of who the hell this guy is. So, quick recap. Net neutrality, I think we all know what that is. It's the idea that internet service providers should treat all all legal internet traffic equally. So no blocking, no throttling, no paid prioritization, that kind of thing. Um, ISPs like Verizon, Comcast tend to not really like that idea because they would rather charge Netflix for better connection, or they would rather throttle Netflix so that their video service is a better experience for the user, so the user will buy their service and not Netflix. Um, so a lot of people have been hoping, well, maybe the FCC can encode net neutrality into law, or at least oversee ISPs and make sure they abide by them rules. And new chairman Tom Wheeler comes in 2 years ago, and a lot of us went, "Oh crap!" Well, I just heard the flushing sound of net neutrality circling the bowl because Tom Wheeler is a former lobbyist for telecoms. So we
Yeah,
were like, "Oh boy, this ain't
yeah.
going well."
He
But
was the CEO of the Cellular Telecommunications and Internet Association up until 2004. Um, so yeah, so that's where that comes from. Basically, he ran the group that lobbied for a lot of the stuff that the telecom industry got
right.
over a 10-year period.
But to Wheeler's credit, he has been saying a lot of right things over the years. He's been championing net neutrality. He's been very hard on companies like Verizon for throttling people. He's like, I give you till this date to tell me exactly why you're doing this. He says he's looking into preempting state laws that limit municipal broadband services. So is he one of the good guys, or do we not trust him? So that's what the poll was asking this week, and we had 107 people vote. Probably would have been higher if I would have got the damn poll article out sooner. But anyway, 107 people voted. Only 8% say he's one of the good guys. 20% say I don't trust him any more than I trust Traveler's Tales to make a bug-free Lego game. And 72% say he's making some good moves, but I'm keeping a wary eye on him.
Yeah, and I think that's how you need to approach any politician, anybody that runs an agency in Washington. Even if they're making good moves now, that may not hold true for the long term. So, yeah, that's where I fell in this. I don't trust any politician, no matter how good their policy decisions are, as far as I can throw them. Yeah.
Yeah, I voted he's making some good moves, but I'm keeping a wary eye on him. Um, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but his background mixed with what we've seen of people who come from such backgrounds. But to be fair, he's been talking the talk and walking the walk. So
Yeah.
uh, how oh
How
man,
dirtier.
Hal. As honestly you needed, I don't even know who he is option, and yeah,
But sometimes that
probably.
doesn't fit the purpose of the poll too.
Yeah, sometimes I think, well, should I put that or should it be just one of those, well, guess I'm not voting in this poll type of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's a subjective thing.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Do you think uh, what's on the cards now is reclassifying ISPs as common carriers so that the
Yeah.
FCC can regulate net neutrality rules? Do you think that's going to happen?
I think there's a very good possibility that yeah, it will happen, and you know, but it all depends on if the if Congress can step out, step aside and let it happen. I don't think there's enough Republicans in Congress to block the FCC from making these rules, because it is a very hot button issue. It is a nonpartisan issue. There's Republicans and Democrats who are for and against it, and so I don't see there being enough people in Congress to actually block anything, because it would be very bad for them in 2018. Especially if it's a Republican pushed thing, it could really hurt their presidential prospects. Regardless of who runs. If the Republicans in Congress actively block net neutrality, that would harm any. That would basically kill any support from young internet users in the 2018 elections
Mm.
or 2016 elections. I don't know
Yeah,
why
I think it's 2016. Yeah.
But yeah, so they better watch their step.
Yep. Yep. And if I realized it would have taken me till Friday to write the poll article, I probably would have put I'm not familiar enough with this guy to make a judgment call, but I thought I'd have that article up the same day, and then my lunch hour ended, and then people came and said, "Andrew, you need to do work. Here's this pile of stuff. Go do this." I'm like, I want to work on game politics stuff. I don't want to do the stuff you pay me for. That's no fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, let us move on to new topic, which is swatting. Oh, there's a lovely topic. We've had much fun batting this one back and forth, haven't we, Zachary?
Yes, we have.
Yes. Emotions run raw. Heat gets heated. So let's talk about this. Your original comment in there, I thought, said something very interesting that I hadn't quite heard anyone talk about before. And to put this into perspective, one of the things that I make a conscious decision to do, and as a person who writes for a news blog, this maybe is not the best thing to do, but I try my best to not name drop uh, persons who commit, like Sandy Hook. I've
Mm-hmm.
been purposefully not saying the perpetrator of that's name, or the Aurora the theater shootings. And the reason I do that is because I remember, I figure that, you know what, I know who shot up Virginia Tech. I know who shot up the Aurora Theater. I know who shot up Sandy Hook. I can see their face. I know their names. I know a lot personally about them. They all they killed like 20 people each, and I couldn't tell you the name or face of one of them, and that kind of bugs me in a way that I know the bad guy, and they're almost become celebrities in some manner of speaking, and
Yeah.
in my own small way, I'm kind of trying to avoid that, because I think a small portion of that might be, some people are like, I'm depressed, no one likes me. Well, I'm going to go out with a bang and people will know my name, gosh darn it. I'm like, well, I'm not going to say your name. No one's going to know your name or your face on my watch. So that kind of thing. And what you were talking about in response to a swatting article that we wrote yesterday or the day before was that we should probably stop referring to swatting as a prank. Because it sets kind of I mean, we have the context in the article that shows exactly what this is and what it means, but in a way, I can see the perspective where it does kind of soften or devalue the seriousness of what we're talking about. So do you want to talk about that or expand on that?
Yeah. Basically, my point is that swatting is not a prank. A prank is something you do when you want to make somebody look foolish, or you want to make people laugh, and to me a prank is something that is ultimately harmless, but funny for a significant amount of people and potentially the person that you're pulling the prank on. Yes, there are some pretty dirty pranks, like TPing somebody's house. Well, yes, it might be funny for you. It's not funny for the person who has to clean their trees the next day. That's not fun at all. But it again, it's ultimately harmless. But with swatting, you it's there is no harmless element to swatting. When you send a group of armed people into somebody's house who are not expecting those people to show up at their house with guns drawn and voices raised and doors getting kicked in, you are inflicting emotional trauma on them, financial trauma on them because they have to pay for any damage that's done, and potentially physical trauma on these people because people have died, both innocent people, cops, and people have been injured. And I think by referring to swatting as a prank, you dilute the risk and the danger inherent in sending armed people into somebody's house or place of employment, because there's always that element of somebody could get hurt in this.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, if you're somebody who, if you have participated in a swatting prank, you know I would put that on the same level as armed assault and attempted murder. And if somebody actually does die, that's actual murder. You sent somebody there to kill somebody, and that is murder. And that's same thing would happen if you hired a hitman to kill somebody. You would be charged with murder because you hired the person. And just because the person is a law enforcement officer who doesn't know exactly what's going on, but has to respond, doesn't negate the fact that you killed somebody. And that's the where I was coming from with this comment, is that there's always the possibility that somebody could die, and that in itself does not make this funny in any way whatsoever. And so I'm tired of seeing it referred to as a prank, and I think everybody should stop.
Do you think is there a word you would like to replace prank with, or just call it swatting?
I even think swatting might belittle it a little bit as well. It,
Mm-hmm.
it could be acceptable because it's a generalized term for the action. Um, you know, um, other than swatting, I would say, to be honest, I can't think of any other acceptable term just off the top of my
Mm.
head. Maybe like, you know, yeah, I can't think of anything right now.
Well,
Any suggestions
we'll
from
brainstorm
people?
that. Crime. James has a good one. It's a crime. Swatting crime.
Yeah, there we go.
In fact, someone, gosh, was it PHX Corp, PRH99? One of our Shoutbox folks linked a CBS Chicago report of a 19-year-old man who was arrested for swatting in this was in Vegas Thursday. And
Hmm.
the state attorney, the report says the state attorney, James Glasgow, plans to craft legislation that would make swatting a felony in Illinois. So
Yeah, I think
maybe that's
all.
what we could call, instead of calling it a prank, we can call it a felony.
Yeah, I think it's already a misdemeanor crime to, or depending on the nature of it, to make a false report with the
Hmm.
police. To say that your car was stolen, but in reality it's just parked behind your house. That's a crime. You know, and you could actually go to jail for that.
Yeah.
Because you're wasting police resources, and it's potentially insurance fraud too.
Mm. Yeah, and it actually, it does. You're not only you mentioned the financial damages to a person who is targeted. If their front door gets kicked in, if a flashbang is thrown into their home,
Hmm.
things get knocked over, if bullets start flying. Um, but that's also, wastes time and resources from the police, which we all pay for.
Yep.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So,
Yeah.
now, as James points out in the chat here, luckily so far, no one has died as a result of swatting, either the people who have been swatted or the police who go on the raid.
Yeah.
Um, but people on both people in the house and police have died in SWAT raids before,
Hmm.
so it's very. If this keeps continuing, numbers say
Yeah,
that
it could
someone's going
happen.
to get
Yeah.
killed at some point.
Yeah, and part of the discussion that was going on in this article was just how do you how do you properly frame the risk, and part of it is nobody has died in a swatting raid. Is there what's the risk of that? But you can't really talk about just swatting on its own and try to define a risk there, because you're gonna, if you're just looking at swatting, you're gonna look at the risk and you're saying, well, nobody has died, nobody's been injured, so I guess the risk is zero, or minimal, minimal risk. You've got to put that in at least the context of wrong door raids, where they get the address wrong, so instead of hitting your neighbor's house where they're supposed to be, they're hitting your house. Or there's that, and then there's the false report raids where it's like they arrest a guy for drug dealing and said, yeah, I got the drugs at this guy's house, and they raid that person's house and don't find any drugs, or nothing that would amount to more than a misdemeanor possession charge. And various versions of that. And those are the types of raids that um, you really have to include to properly vet the risk associated with swatting. And there is certainly risk, because in those particular types, those two types of raids, innocent people have died, cops have died, and children have been injured, and dogs have been killed. And property has been damaged. It's a very real thing, and it's like I said, it's not funny at all. And it just it needs to stop, and we need to stop referring to it as a prank.
Maybe we should start a international TPing service where instead of calling the police to send a SWAT team to someone's house, you call Andrew's TP service, and I'll go over with a bunch of toilet paper and chuck it at their house.
Yeah.
And unless they're severely allergic to the lotion in the tissue, it may be a little annoying, but no one gets
You
hurt.
buy toilet paper with lotion in it? You must have more money than I do.
Nothing but the best for my backside. I figure if I'm going to drag something across the sensitive skin of my bottom, it better be high quality. So,
Yeah.
with that disturbing imagery firmly planted in your brains, let us move on and talk about Dead or Alive, Part 5, the last round, before before Koei Tecmo makes another one. So we actually wrote about Dead or Alive 5. I didn't do anything. James wrote these. Wrote about it twice this week. In in one, the producer of Dead or Alive was talking about the cultural differences surrounding the portrayals of women in Dead or Alive games. If you're not familiar with Dead or Alive games, I think Dead or Alive is the series that popularized jiggle physics, which are located roundabouts here. There's no jiggle physics on butts so far as I know, and the guys don't
Yeah.
have jiggle physics on their junk, which they totally should. That would be hilarious. But
It's my understanding they had jiggle physics in The Watchmen, but that was a movie.
The Watchmen. Oh, you mean Doctor
Or
Manhattan?
Doctor Manhattan.
That was more pendulum.
That was a movie.
Yeah. But let's see. Yosuke Hayashi, the lead developer of Team Ninja and the producer for Dead or Alive 5, says our characters, male and female alike, are created in a fantasy setting and are using extraordinary abilities to compete with each other in a clearly lighthearted, over-the-top universe. Their abilities are very balanced, and we want to present them as dynamic, strong, sexy, and confident. In our eyes, every fighter has the same potential. And pardon me, what he goes on to say is it's important to remember that Dead or Alive is a series developed in Japan, where the interpretation of beauty is very different to that of Europe or the US. There is a culture barrier between what appeals to our fans in the East and what to those in the West. So, of course, we are taking that under consideration in our development and marketing. As far as Dead or Alive is concerned, our philosophy is to try and make a game that our fans can enjoy in both the East and the West, and regardless of gender. Now, I'm not really seeing a huge difference between the buxom, scantily clad type women that we know and love so well in video games that we see in a lot of games from Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and that we see in a lot of games here in America and everywhere else in the world. I think we all just kind of generally like boobs, which is fine. In my eyes, though, I just wish that the outfits do get ridiculous, but there is a false equivalence going on here. Most of the women, there are a couple of exceptions, but most of the women, almost all of their, if not all of their costumes are absurd and
Yeah.
almost fetishized bondage gear with pieces missing here and there and no support, and you're looking at that going, there is no way any woman rocking double D's is going to be wearing that to a fist fight.
No.
That would that would be no good for anybody. And I don't have a problem with that specific costume. I'm just looking at the design of the guys and all their costumes and the design of the girls and their costumes. I'm thinking, I think we can have. I think we can break a happier medium. I think there should be
Mm-hmm.
more overtly sexualized guys. I think there should be more costumes for the girls that actually make sense. I think, a lot of people are like, don't take away my boobs, uh, which, heaven forbid. I don't
Isn't
think
that why
that
they have Dead or Alive Extreme Beach
beach
Volleyball?
volleyball,
Uh,
exactly. I think the idea is not less content; it's more content. Let's
mhm.
just have some more options, especially in the costuming department or
Yeah.
even in the body type department. And we've actually been seeing strides in that direction. But I read that quote and I don't really totally see that as a, oh, it's Japan, cut them some slack. No, no, I don't think
Yeah.
it's just Japan. So,
No, it's not at all. And I find that argument that we have cultural differences, so it's okay for us to sexualize women, but not okay for you to further sexualize the women through your dirty, dirty mods. That doesn't make any sense to me. Um,
right. A further the next day, I think we had the next day the producer was talking about mods and says we have to deal with mod issues from an IP holder perspective. We would ask PC users to play our game in a good and moral manner. Otherwise, we won't be able to release a title for PC again. Which some people in our chat box said they just don't like PC gamers and are looking for an excuse not to support the platform, which may be that. But I have to wonder if he's really in mods be good and moral with your mods. Is he talking about nude mods or mods that change the character animations to put them in more compromising positions,
yeah,
or is he talking about mods that enable cheating or
yeah,
both?
he
I
doesn't
really don't
really
know.
specify, and so a lot of people are taking it as just any mods he doesn't like are immoral according to him. But and and I guess it could be a loss in translation thing where yeah he is just talking about cheating, but yeah, but without clarification it could just be that
Mhm.
he's just overreacting to nude mods or whatever else people might do.
Yeah, and if you're really bothered by the nude mod, don't install it. Um, James points out, he says, I don't care if they make sexy characters, just be honest about it. And it's like, yeah, if you want to make a game filled with girls who are half naked and incredibly busty, damn it, own it. Say, yes, I did. That's exactly what I want to do. And if you don't like it, tough rocks, you know? Um, but a lot of time you see, no, 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 it's a cultural thing. It's like, no, I just like half naked girls with big boobs.
Yeah,
You know,
fair enough.
it's
Yeah.
okay, dude. There's gaming is huge. There is room in Toys R, well, maybe not Toys R Us. There is room in the video game industry. There is room on Steam and room in the retail for games of all sorts, for very tasteful and chaste games, to games on the complete other side of the spectrum, to games in the middle. So, them's my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I have much more to add either.
Yeah, Goth says it worked for Honey Pop, which, if I'm not mistaken, is one of those. It's a match 3 type puzzle game with slash dating sim. So you kind of play you kind of play Tetris to get the girls in the sack, and
Interesting.
the art is the typical art that you see. The boobs and butt poses and things you see. There's this one character who it's so funny to me. There's this one character who, let me back up here so you can see what I'm doing. She's drawn with her arm permanently wedged below her bust, kind of pushing herself up. And I haven't played the game, but every screenshot I've seen that character and her arm is permanently jammed underneath her bust. And I'm like, does she ever move her arm? I mean, she's a big girl. She doesn't need to enhance them like that. You could stand like this and be just fine. But anyway,
Yeah.
enough of this silliness. Let's move on to the last topic because we're out of time. We're long out of time.
Yeah.
So last week or this week, at some point, a eSports League of Legends tournament being organized by an organization in the Philippines. So, they're trying to do an all-female tournament, and they had
Which is
some,
perfectly reasonable.
which is cool.
Yeah, that
You know,
to me that's fine. I could get behind an all-female tournament.
sure.
It's just, yeah.
But they had a few rules which placed restrictions on gay, lesbian, and transgendered players.
Basically, it sounded like they were trying to define what exactly a woman was by defining what was not a woman.
Yeah,
Maybe.
here it says each team will be allowed to have a maximum of one gay or transgendered woman for the entirety of the tournament day. Therefore, teams cannot do the following. Team A's first game will be 4 female players and 1 gay. Then on Team A's second game, they will have 4 female players and replace another gay or transgendered member. Any team who has violated the above provision, regardless if intentional or otherwise, whether discovered during the day or the event or sometime after, will have all their team members, the female members, as well as the lesbian, gay, transgendered women member, sanctioned with a 1-year ban on all Garena, which is the name of the organization, organized events, including subsequent Iron Solari tournament. Where was the other part? So let's see. We believe that allowing more to be eligible to join is obviously the answer, and as many of our female teams have expressed, lesbian, gay, transgendered women members are their friends too. On the other hand, for any competitions, we seriously look at ensuring there's a fair, level playing field for all participants, and there are arguments and concerns from other participants who dispute that lesbian, gay, transgendered women may probably have some unfair advantage. So this sounds kind of like your heart is in the right place, but your head is firmly up your ass. They seem to be under the impression that a gay, transgendered, or lesbian woman has some inherent advantage over any other player. I'm trying to think What if they're a gay transgendered person? Are they like doubly more advantageous or something? It's like you
Yeah,
can't have two gay members on your team. That's not fair to everybody else. It's like what?
yeah. I
Why?
don't. I honestly, I've tried to read this, and I've tried to read this through a lens of as conservative right as you can get here in the U.S. and I just can't see where they're coming from that, coming to from this angle, and it makes no sense, and a lesbian and a straight woman, would, as far as I could tell, would have the same level of skill. A transgendered woman and a straight woman, would really have the same set of skills because, I've seen women and men hold their own against each other in various games. During the time I spent at game tournaments. I've seen women make it to the championships in like Call of Duty tournaments. It's like League of Legends. I don't know what the current demographic split is on League of Legends, but it seems to be a pretty equal opportunity game, just on its
Mm,
own, and there's really nothing that anybody would have an advantage over unless they know the ins and outs of the games. Like they've spent hours and hours and hours and hours playing it and memorizing every action and reaction the game has. It's like that's really the only place you're going to get an advantage over other players.
sorry, I'm reading a rather colorful comment over on YouTube. So, hi, Diego Gutierrez and AL Justice. I'm just going to read half of the comment. Says, Dead or Alive is the series that literally went out of its way to make sure it all but had a tit engine. I can't read the rest of it, but
Yeah.
yeah. James says that regarding the Philippines organization, he thinks they came to that conclusion that those players play like men, and therefore, and men are better. Let me just actually read his comment. I think they came to the conclusion that those players play like men, and men are better than women as players.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe. It's like, well, thinking, well, men are naturally superior at video games, and gay women are totally like men, and transgendered women are totally like men too. So they have the advantage being all closer to male and all, and so it's not fair to have too many of them on your team. It's like, oh, for crying out loud, guys,
So
really?
so let me so before we finish up here,
Theater and
let
peppers.
me ask this question. If they had an all male league, would they allow lesbian women and transgendered women onto the all men's league,
Or gay men.
or gay
Are
men?
gay men better at video games than straight men? I don't know.
No, I think it would be the opposite. Gay men would be worse at video games
Because they're closer to women.
yeah, because they're closer to women.
Okay.
Uh, if you guys can't tell, I'm speaking in jest here. But
Viper says it's those cultural differences again. Yeah, you have to excuse them. They're Philippines. So
uh,
now to Gara eSports' credit, they did change their mind the very next day. They said our initial ruling on LGBT player restrictions within the Iron Solari League has created a lot of good discussion and debate over the last 24 hours. I saw the comments on their page. There was no debate on this.
no, there wasn't. There was a giant wall of people telling them how stupid they were.
Yeah. They go on to say, after discussing the ruling with our partners and re-examining our approach, we have decided to remove these restrictions completely. This means that any player who self-identifies as female will be allowed to participate. We sincerely apologize for any offense we caused to the LGBT and gaming communities. So, all's well that ends well. Good on them. Just don't do it again.
Yeah.
So, Matthew points out there's no reason to have a gender split to start with. True. Um, I think the idea is, because a lot of people say, well, would you have an all-male game tournament? You can, but game tournaments are almost all male anyway.
Anyways, yeah.
So I think it's more along the lines of we want to, especially what we've seen in the past with some douchebags in these game tournaments say, what, sexism is just part of gaming, what, say rape threats are part of the game, man, what, creating an all-women tournament is like, let's foster a culture of positive gaming for people to enjoy, and then it's like, oh, look at all these gamers, let's bring them all together and say, hey, we're all happy and play together. So yeah, but
Mhm.
I certainly see that perspective too. And
Yeah.
when we're when we treat all every when we all treat each other equally and with respect, then we can all play together nicely.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think there are any men-only game tournaments. I don't think any have that restriction. So,
Mhm.
and hey,
I've never seen one. I've never been involved with one or saw one. Yeah, just based on the local gaming tournament community, here in Oklahoma,
mm,
it's almost completely men. There have been, like, at most of them, there's at least, like, 3 or 4 women who are participating, and they do really good. They hold their own. Usually, they're participating in surprisingly, they're participating in the first-person shooter tournaments. They usually do like Call of Duty and Gears of War and Halo tournaments, and alongside that they'll do Soul Calibur, Street Fighter, and Smash Brothers. And you would think that the women might be more interested in the fighting games, particularly Smash Brothers, but that's not really the case. Smash Brothers is at every tournament I've ever been to, Smash Brothers has been dominated by men. Um, like I have never seen a woman participate in Smash Brothers tournament, but they have always been in the Halo and Call of Duty tournaments. So yeah, it's but you know for the most part they're big sausage fests.
mm,
Yeah.
sausage. All right, and on that note, let us end the
Yes, hi to
show.
my kids.
Yes. Hi, Zachary's 5 children's in the background.
They're
6 on the way.
supposed to be in bed.
Go to bed! I'd
Uh,
get more gaming done if it weren't for you kids. So,
I never tell them that.
but I'm thinking it. Oh, yeah, I'm thinking it. All right, so let's sign off here. Andrew Eisen here. You can watch my silly YouTube videos on YouTube. Just type in my name, Andrew Eisen. Eisen is the last name. Um, I just did a video called My First Experience with Marijuana. So watch it. It's educational.
And
Uh,
it's funny.
oh, good. Yeah, because it's for
I love
videos
your
like,
hair.
yeah, I know. I'm growing my hair out simply so I can do videos like this because I just basically pulled my hair out to, I'm like doing this with my to get my hair to stand up and just, so I look completely stoned. It was pretty. I think it turned out pretty well. Um, I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute, that actually wasn't my first experience with marijuana, so I may have to redo the video or do a Q and Andrew or something like that. This week, I'm trying to do a Valentine's Day video. Unfortunately, I need another actor for the video, and I'm having trouble finding one. Because none of my friends live in this apartment building anymore. They've all moved away. Uh, one of my friends is like up in the LA doing the fitness expo in LA this weekend. Another one lives in Ranchos Pasquitos, which is like 40 minutes away. Uh, I may call in a favor anyway. Say I'll buy you sushi or something. Get down here. I need to shoot a video. I also want to do a Monster Hunter comes out on Thursday, I think. So there's a Monster Hunter video I want to do too. So Lord knows I'll probably get none of them done.
Yeah.
but hopefully I get them done because that'll be fun. So Twitter at Andrew Eisen, Facebook Andrew Eisen, YouTube, and there you have it. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at EasyKnight, and you can also check out my game development work. It's DK_gaming on Twitter. It's DivineKnightGaming.com. And this week, I promise, I'm actually going to throw some screenshots and a playable prototype of my next game up on the web this week. Assuming I get all of my work done that I have to do with other things. And if you're interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, you can check out OK Game Devs on Twitter, and it's okgamedev.com.
All
So
right.
there you go.
Now, before we close out, Viper suggests I just knock on my neighbor's door and ask her to be a Valentine in my video. And I've actually considered that, but my neighbor's only lived there for like 2 months. I've spoken to her like maybe 2 or 3 times. Um,
How would
so
you like to star in a video
yeah,
with me?
yeah, it's like knock, knock, knock. Hey, you want to be in a video with me? It's going on the internet. It's for Valentine's Day. Come on. You know, that's yeah. I mean, if you know me, you know my sense of humor, and you know I'm harmless. But if some guy just walked up to you and said, "Hey, want to be in a video?" Well, I wouldn't say it exactly like that, but yeah, that's like, no, I don't want to be alone in your room with you and a camera, you creepy person with crazy hair. So, but I may get desperate. So we'll see what happens. All right, we are out of here. Thank you very much for watching this week's episode of Super Podcast Action Committee. We stream live every Saturday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so we'll see you next week. In the meantime, send us email at superpackpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at superpackpodcast. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes. Yes, there's an audio version of this show too. And like us on Facebook. So we will see you all next week. Have fun later.
Later.